To knit your pumpkin, using double knit yarn and 4mm needles, you cast on 9 stitches, leaving a long tail to help with your sewing up later. So that's your 9 stitches. Always check at the end of the full row to make sure you have the right number of stitches. So we're starting our increase by knitting into the front and the back of each stitch as we go along. Knit into the front, knit into the back. Front, back. This is always a bit tighter on your first increased row. So into the front and into the back. And you do this until you come to the last stitch, which you knit without increasing. So just knit this one. On the second row, you just purl your stitch, all your stitches across this row. And you should have 17 stitches. So there are only 2 increased rows in this pattern, so the last one now and the next one. So you do the same increase on this row, knitting into the front and the back of each stitch. And this will bring the number of stitches up to 33, which is the amount you need for doing the small size pumpkin. As you can see, they can be quite tight when you're increasing again so soon. But it just takes a wee bit of time to work across this row. And you come to the last stitch again now and you just knit it without increasing. So after this, you just continue in stocking stitch, which is 1 row purl, 1 row plain, until you have 17 rows knit. So now I've done the 17 rows, and this is what it should look like. And we're going to start our decreased row now. So you just knit 2 stitches together, and you're bringing it back to the 17 stitches that you had before you started your second increased row. Now this form of decrease can sometimes just leave a wee bump on the surface of your pumpkin, but it adds to the texture. So you do this right across the row until you come to the last stitch. Which you just knit. So you purl this row of 17 stitches. I'm sure you could use the purl row on the outside either if you wanted to give it a completely different look for your pumpkin. But the one we're doing today, it has got the plain on the outside. And so now you do your final row of decrease, which is knitting 2 stitches together. And you're back to your original 9 stitches that you cast on. Knit your last. So that is the size of your pumpkin. So then you cut the yarn and leave a good long tail for sewing up. So thread your needle with the end of your yarn and draw it through your remaining 9 stitches. So you pull through like that, and pull tightly and put a wee stitch there, and then you are ready to sew up the seam. So taking a stitch from each side, you sew along your seam. This is sometimes referred to as ladder stitch. So you don't sew it the whole way because we'll have to turn it out and stuff it. Just put a double stitch to hold it in place, and then we'll turn it out the right way, and then we'll add the stuffing. So now we'll add the stuffing, and make sure not to stuff it too tight because then it is harder to sew through when you're making the indentations on the pumpkin. Enough stuffing, just make it nice and soft and squishy, and we'll continue and finish our sewing up of the side seam. until we come here to the cast on row. So you can just cut off that thread that you used for sewing up the seam. And with the long thread that we left at the beginning when we were casting on our stitches, we thread it through the needle and gather up the cast on stitches by putting the needle through and pulling it closed. Now that should close the seam on the top. Then taking your needle, you put it through the middle and up through the top. And pull tightly and bring it back down again through the bottom. And this will give you the shape that you need to start working on for your pumpkin, and where you'll be adding the stalk later. Just do it a second time. And that'll give you the top of your pumpkin. Now, to achieve the sections that are in the finished one here, you take your thread across your cast on, your seam there where you sewed it up, and go back into the center. And pull tight. And then opposite it, cutting your pumpkin in half really, you do the same. And this, you can see where the sections are starting here now. So go back to the middle of one of these. You can put as many or as little of these sections that you want. You can also use a different coloured thread if you want, just to create a bit of contrast. And then opposite that one, you do the same. So that's creating 4 sections in your pumpkin, and if you want to create more, then you have these sections again. You may need to get a second thread, as this one here now is getting, this yarn is getting a bit short. You might need to maneuver it around a bit just to get your section. And just finish it off on the bottom. And just continue around until you're happy with the number of sections that you have on your pumpkin. And they don't have to be perfect, because no pumpkin has got the exact number of sections. Now we're going to make the stalk for the pumpkin, and you can use green or brown or any colour yarn that you like that is suitable for the stalk. There are two ways of making this stalk. You can cast on 3 stitches and stocking stitch 9 rows and cast off and sew down the seam, or I'm going to show you how to do an I-cord, which is much handier for this project. So what you do is you use size 4 double pointed needles and you cast on 3 stitches, the same as you would if you were going to knit it flat. So you cast on your 3 stitches and you move them to the end of the needle and you knit your 3 stitches as normal. And then you push them to the end of that needle and you knit your 3 stitches. And do the same again, push to the end. And we do this for nine rows. Push again to the end of the needle.
I'll speed it up so you can, it just happens double fast.
Now the effect of the I-cord is, as you can see, it closes in on itself at the back, so there's no sewing up to be done on it. And I-cords can be used in lots of projects and they're very simple to make. So that's the 9 rows done now on the I-cord, and as you can see it closes in on itself and there's no sewing up to be done on it. So you just cut your thread and once again thread your needle and bring it through your stitches, your 3 stitches like that, and pull it off. So you can just finish off by turning over and just putting in 1 or 2 stitches to secure it. I always like to bring my thread further down a project like that so that it doesn't ravel. And you just cut. So you have the other end then of the stalk, which you just attach to your pumpkin in the center as such. And just run a few stitches through it to secure. And to make it stand upright. Just bring it through the center. Just bring it through the center again as before. And finish off with a stitch. Just cut off your remaining yarn, and there you have your small knitted pumpkin.